Saints, we've been reading about the acceptable year of the Lord, and now we're coming into these end times, and we saw in Luke how the Lord had read from Isaiah chapter 51, but now we're in these end times. We're in the day of God's vengeance. We're in the times of Babylon, because Babylon's here in the end times, because we see it. We see it in the book of Revelation. In Revelation 18:4, what's he say concerning Babylon? And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people. Come out of her. Come out of Babylon." That's what the Lord's saying in these last days. He's calling a people out of Babylon, because the church is in slavery in these last days, just like the Hebrews were in the Old Testament. And there come a time when they were free to leave Babylon, but most of them didn't want to. Only a remnant left Babylon. Only a remnant that went back to restore the city, to restore the temple, to restore the wall. And in Revelation 18:4, it says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people.'" He's talking to you, because he's saying, "My people, come out of Babylon." So we're in these days of Babylon in the end times. "That you come out of her, my people, that you may not participate in her sins, that you may not receive of her plagues." So he's calling a people out of Babylon. And we see in this Babylon, in chapter 17, Revelation chapter 17 verse 3, "And he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Clearly this is the kingdom of the beast. This is the kingdom of the antichrist. And in verse 4, "And the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of the unclean things of her immorality. And upon her forehead was written a mystery. And upon her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth." So here we have this Babylon riding in on the kingdom of the beast. And she has these things, saints. She's clothed in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold and precious stones. You remember we were reading in Joel about those locusts. Joel 1:4, those locusts, the gnawing locusts, what it's left the swarming locusts have eaten. What the swarming locusts has left the creeping locusts have eaten. What the creeping locusts has left the stripping locusts have eaten. Awake, drunkards, and weep. These locusts represent Babylon. They've eaten, they've stripped, they've taken everything. You see Babylon there in Revelation chapter 17. She has those precious things. She has that gold, that silver, those precious stones, those pearls. She's dressed in the things that the saints have, but the saints are slaves in the Babylon. And Babylon, just like in the Old Testament, has taken those things, those precious things, just like they did with the Hebrews. They took all their precious things, their treasures, and they took them to Babylon. But now, God is calling a people out of Babylon. He's calling a people, like it said in Revelation chapter 3, where he's talking to the church of Laodicea, the end times church. He said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice," we just heard his voice. Revelation 18:4, "Come out of her, my people. Behold, I stand at the door and knock, and if anyone hears my voice and opens the door." He's outside of the church. Remember Laodicea? He said, "Because you say, I am rich and I have become wealthy and I have need of nothing." And he said, "You do not know that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked." The church thinks it has its glory because the church is in Babylon. The church is happy in Babylon. Babylon provides all of its needs. But God is calling a people out of Babylon. And like it says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and will dine with him, and he with me." God's calling a people out of Babylon. And the Lord, he read in Luke chapter 4 from Isaiah 61. And in Isaiah 61 it says, this is what the Lord was reading. The Ruach Adonai Elohim is upon me, because Adonai has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and to open the opening of the prison of those who are bound, to proclaim the year of Adonai's favor, or to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. He now in these last days, he's calling those out that are imprisoned in Babylon. They're bound in Babylon. He's to proclaim liberty to the captives. He's calling the people out. You're free to leave Babylon now. You're allowed to leave. But most, just like the Old Testament, they don't want to leave. They don't want to restore the things. They don't want to restore the wall and the temple of God. They don't want to restore those things. They're happy in Babylon, but a remnant will come out. We have to be that remnant. Will come out. And he stopped at that, saints. He stopped in the middle of that sentence to proclaim the year of Adonai's favor. And the sentence went on from there. In these last days, he's proclaiming liberty to the captives, liberty to those that are captive in Babylon, those that have had the locusts eat and strip everything from them. And Babylon has those things, those precious things you see in Revelation chapter 17. Babylon has those things. But he's proclaiming the acceptable, the favorable year of the Lord, and the day of God's vengeance, to comfort those who mourn. Which ones mourn? Those ones that are in Babylon. And we read in Psalms 137, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. Upon the willows, in the midst of it, we hung our harps. For there our captors in Babylon, demanded of us songs, and our tormentors demanded of us amusement and laughter, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing the Lord's songs in a foreign land? You can't sing the Lord's songs in the foreign land. He's calling you out. He wants the people to come out. He wants that remnant, them few that'll come out and go back, to set up the wall, divide between the holy and the profane, to start to build that temple of the living God with these living stones. And he's looking for that royal priesthood, those that'll walk with him and be that royal priesthood. That's what he's looking for, saints, to give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness. Remember, we said there'll be those trees. See that last message. You'll be those trees of righteousness. And now we go on to Isaiah 61:4. What happens after that? In Isaiah 61:4, then who? Who's the they? Those that are released from Babylon, those that come out of Babylon, those that mourn for Zion, those that become those trees of righteousness. Then they will rebuild the ancient ruins. They'll rebuild the walls. They'll rebuild the temple. They'll put this temple, their bodies, the temple of the living God, in order. They'll put up that wall to separate between the holy and profane. Then they will rebuild the ancient ruins. They will raise up the former devastations, and they will repair the ruined cities, the desolations of many generations. That's what the Lord's calling for in these last days. That's what he's doing, saints. He's calling a people out of Babylon. We're in Babylon. We're in the last days. If there's anything he's trying to tell you, it couldn't be any clearer right there, saints. He's saying, like he said in Revelation 18:4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you may not participate in her sins. What is Babylon? Babylon's the world. The world has taken over the people of God. They love the world and the things of the world. They pray for the things of the world. They pay for their sports teams. They pay for worldly things. They pray for money. But God's calling out a people, that remnant, that few, that will go and restore the temple of God, put that wall up, become that royal priesthood, and walk with God and have that living water we read about that flows from the temple of God. That living water that'll rise up in them and flow out of them. That's what God's looking for. A place to dwell, a dwelling place of God where His Spirit can rest and live there. So saints, we are those that He's calling out of Babylon. Come out of her, my people. And then that's what He's doing in these last days. That's this message of this acceptable year of the Lord in these last days. And as He said then, the Ruach Adonai Elohim is upon me, because Adonai has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives. Where are you captive? For those that are captive in sin and aren't born again, yes, be born again, come to Him, accept Him, receive Him, and your sins will be forgiven. But for us now that are in Babylon, He's calling a people to come out, to proclaim liberty to the captives. You're free to leave, but you got to want to leave. You got to go back and restore that temple, that city, that place of God, and the opening of the prison to those that are bound. He's calling a people out of Babylon. He's setting the people free. Those people that hear His voice, they're free to leave Babylon. And as we said, like it says in Revelation, like He said to the church of Laodicea, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice, what's He saying? What He's saying is, saints, is come out of her, my people. That's what He's saying. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, He'll come into you. He'll sup with you. You'll eat the flesh of the Son of Man. You'll drink His blood. You'll eat that heavenly bread. And that living water will flow from you. And that's where we're at, saints. The Ruach Adonai Elohim is upon us to proclaim, because Adonai has anointed me, has anointed us, has anointed you to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent us to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, those captives in Babylon, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound, those of you that are bound in sin. You saints that have gotten into the world, gotten into sin, gotten into religion, where your only walk with God is that you go and do some service a couple times a week and give some money. That's not walking with God. He's calling a people out of prison. He's calling a people out. And those people, what will they do? They will rebuild the ancient ruins. They will restore former desolations. They will repair the ruined cities, the desolations for many generations. He's calling a people out, saints. These are the last days. And if you hear His voice, saying, it's what it's saying, it's the message of the end times, come out of her, my people. And what's He saying? Repent and prepare the way of the Lord. And let's have an ever increasing revelation of the Son of God and His purpose in and through us.